Good day, my friends, and welcome back to my van life health and care titled videos where we can come together and be real and talk about being healthier on the road. So today we're going to get started and continue talking about my nomadic loneliness series that I have started. Today we're going to end up talking about pets on the road, how that helps you. Is it the right thing to do for you if you're thinking about doing it and haven't done that? And some things that I have learned on the road having pets. Remember, I started this journey with 2 Brussels Griffons, and I lost my Buster, my senior Griffon, about a year after being on the road. He went into heart failure on the road, but we went on this journey knowing that he had a heart condition, okay? You all know it. The ones that were a part of it in the beginning went through that journey with me, and some other issues that he struggled with. And then now there's Milo, so I'm left with a senior again. Milo is now 11, and that isn't also a consideration too as you're traveling. The age of your pet, as they get older, can you still accommodate things for them, their care and all kinds of things like that. So are we ready to talk about pets and how that can help us with our loneliness? Or is it the right thing to do for you if you don't have one? Okay, all right, so let's get started. All right, we're going to try to get Milo into this a little bit. So remember, Milo is 11 years old right now, and we've been on the road for 3 years. And when I started on this journey, I had Buster, and he was about 12 years old, and I lost him almost a year later, and he was almost 13, okay? And Milo has now become the senior, and he was getting a little bit up there when I had started the journey, but he wasn't extremely old like he is now. So a couple things can go on when you have different age pets, okay? So one of the things that you want to think about if you have pets is, yes, the age. How old is the dog that you have? Does it have any health conditions? Obviously, that's a concern. And then will you be able to accommodate any health issues that come up on the road? Or if you have a healthy pet and it does age, will you be able to accommodate the needs of the pet on the road, okay? So those are some things to think about, but let's start first with puppies. Remember, I'm a former dog trainer, so I could probably do a 7-part video on just this subject with pets, okay? But I'm gonna have to try to get to the point, talk about things, and then maybe if anybody has questions, I can do a separate video on that. I do want to do a separate video after this series of nomadic loneliness on the road. I'm going to talk about grief, when you lose a pet. How do you get through that? I think I'm probably a pretty good person to go over that because I have lost a couple of dogs right close together, so I think I can share from experience of the difficulty and getting through it. Okay, so we're going to end up talking about that, but right now we're going to concentrate on this subject here. So puppies. Now puppies, you have to consider they chew everything, and if you're in an RV and you have a lot of cords and things like that, they like to chew on things, chew on corners. You have to keep them contained. They need to run, they need to play. They really do need a lot of exercise. Of course, different breeds need more energy than other breeds. So I would really do thorough research on a breed. If you're thinking of getting a puppy, please do your research. I would not get a high energy dog or a puppy if you're in a small vehicle. There are other breeds out there that are a little bit more low key, a little bit easier to have on the road than, for instance, something like high energy, like for instance a Border Collie or an Aussie, something like that. Unless you know you can give that dog enough exercise, you're very active yourself, you are going to be doing a lot of hiking, walking, maybe you have a bicycle, you can bicycle a lot and get that dog out there and exercise them a lot. Remember, a lot of times we can be in situations where the weather can be very challenging for us and be stuck in our rigs more than other times. And are you going to be the type of person that no matter what happens with the weather, you're still going to get outside with that dog and exercise that dog as much as possible? Because a dog that has pinned up energy can be very unruly. They can be into trouble, mischief, and a lot of that is just because they're not getting adequate enough exercise. So I hope you consider these things that I'm saying. My breed are Brussels Griffons, and they really are not a high energy dog, or at least when I hit the road they were already seniors and did not need a lot of care. He has spinal issues right now, and Buster had a heart condition, so they need very little amount of exercise, and that's why they do okay in this van, and also because of their age. But also even a younger dog would be fine. But the problem with my breed, or any push nose breed, is you want to consider is they are very sensitive to hot and cold, so you have to do extra measures to keep them cool. So lots of pulls. I have a wrap for him that I can put on to keep him cool. I have to keep him extra warm. He wears a lot of clothing when it's cold because he gets cold very easy. So those are things to consider, where if you have a dog with a longer snout, it's definitely much easier to keep them cool and also warm. So breed is really important. If you choose a pet on the road, what's going to be the best, okay, for you, and also your activity level and your room, because you want to make sure that you are able to accommodate the needs of that pet. If you have to run into a store, will you be able to keep that pet comfortable while you're running into the store? I'm always having to be careful if it's too hot with him. Can I go into the store? Timing that right. If you have a generator, then you can, throw on your generator. If you don't have a generator or a way to do that, do you have a way to keep fans going? Go at the early part of the day when it's not hot, if you're traveling in the heat. If it's cold, do you have a way to keep them warm? So these are all things that while you're traveling and you have to run into a store, can you keep them comfortable? That is going to be your number one concern. And if you can accommodate those needs for the pet, then definitely I would highly recommend a pet on the road if you can do those things and you pick the right pet. I'm not going to do another push nose breed because I just think that it is more work. It is a lot of work, and I just think after he passes away, I will not get another push-nose breed on the road. I just won't. It's just too challenging. You can do it, but it's just a lot of work, and it is quite a bit harder. So I'm going to reconsider definitely this breed, but I already had the breed when I went full-time, so I just made it work, okay? The other thing, they do help. I mean, you have somebody to talk to, somebody to entertain. You can walk with the dog. You have somebody there that helps you to keep from being lonely. And it gives you, just that companionship. So in that reason, it can be very helpful, but you do have to keep in mind they are going to be extra care, extra finances, food, medicines, things like that. If they get injured, can you take care of that pet? Can you get them to the vet? You need to always be looking ahead when you're traveling from point A to point B, knowing where your vets are at when you're passing through those areas. If you have an emergency, are you ready to get rolling? Get them to that emergency care or vet. You always have to be thinking ahead. So is that a responsibility that you want to take on when you're on the road? Those are things to think about, and if you are, then yes, they can be an amazing and wonderful companionship when you're on the road to help with loneliness, okay? So I hope these kind of things helped, and I actually prefer next time around not to do dogs or for a while, other than I know Kent wants to get a dog, so we're gonna, I'm gonna love on his dog, and interact with his dog and help him and share it, but yet it'll be more his than mine, but I just feel that because another issue is where your body is, the health of the person. I feel it's not so much, I'm getting close to 60, but I have a lot of health issues. And I honestly, because of my particular health issues, I don't want the responsibility. It's always a worry for me. If something was to happen to me, can I get that dog or animal, help or somebody to take care of that pet, just that responsibility. I don't want my pet to have to get thrown into a kennel. My dogs are not used to being in a kennel. Another consideration can be, well, if you do have health issues and you have a pet, once in a while you go through a town, I would start working on getting your pet used to being in a kennel environment if you think that is something that could happen and you don't have someone else to watch that pet and something was to happen to you. You don't want to just throw that pet into a situation like that. That would be really emotionally hard for a pet. So just what happens to you? Do you have a plan? Plan A, Plan B, Plan C of taking care of that pet if something should happen. Now that can happen even if you're in a car accident. I mean, something can happen to you and not your pet. So even if you are healthy, do you have a plan in place if that was to happen? So those are things that are just absolutely critical that you have to think about taking on the responsibility of a pet full-time on the road. So I hope these things helped. We're going to get up and move because it helps me to move around too. I hope I touched on a couple important subjects. I didn't want this to get too long, and what I can do is do a part 2 on this subject. If there are a bunch of other questions, then I can come back and maybe answer those questions in a part 2 to having a pet. And is a pet, worth having on the road, or should I say worth, or the right thing to do for you or your situation. But on the topic of loneliness, of course having a pet can help with loneliness, nomadic loneliness on the road. I mean, it can help, but remember, in some ways it doesn't help 100% because you can't have a two-way complete conversation with a pet. So having a pet on the road, even though I've had Milo and I had Buster Milo, I still at times felt extremely lonely because it wasn't the same for me personally to have that one-on-one interaction and conversation with somebody. So sometimes we think it might help, but maybe it's not going to help. Maybe it helps a little bit. And remember, we talked about the personality types. So maybe for the introvert person, the one who's just 100% introvert, then yes, a pet probably would really help with them. And then when we talked about the extrovert person, I don't think a pet is really going to be sufficient enough to really help with a extrovert, because they like people. People give them energy, and they're not going to get that kind of energy interaction from a pet. Again, it can help somewhat, but it might not help that 100% need that they may need to get from people. Okay, now I am really looking forward to Kent getting a dog, because he's a lot more active than me. So he's going to get probably maybe another cattle dog, but he's got the energy, he's healthy for his age, he's strong, he's very active, and he can definitely give that dog the need that it will need. And then also with us kind of loving on it together will be a good thing too. So that'll help me, where I don't have to worry about something happens to me. He'll be able to have the dog, and he would have the dog anytime we have to go separate. So I don't have to worry. I don't want that worry if something happened to me, what's going to happen to the dog. So definitely it's a win-win situation in our world. Okay, so anyways, I hope this helped anybody out there, and I really look forward to your comments. All right, so I will see you in the next video, and the next subject on nomadic loneliness and conquering it and answering all of these concerns that we could have battling it. All right, I love you all. I'll see you in the next video.